Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to Act 3 on CHLY 101.7. This summer has gone so fast. I cannot believe how fast it's gone. But meanwhile, all kinds of things are still happening in the community, despite the fact that a lot of the things we traditionally do in the summertime aren't happening right now. Today in the Zoom booth, and again, we are not in studio. There may be some distractions. You might hear dogs barking or chimes going or rain falling or whatever it may be. Just ignore it. It's all part of working from home on Zoom. But in the booth with me is Cathy Dyck, and she is with Nanaimo Hospice. Welcome to the program, Cathy. I'm so glad you're here. How are you?
I'm doing great, Kath. Thank you for having me.
It's going to be fun today because it's Cathy and Kath and Catherine. Do you actually go by Catherine or do you just go by Cathy?
I go by Catherine for business and Cathy for anybody that knows me.
So most people who know me know that I'm neither. I'm just plain old Cathy. So you've got that extra goodies going on. You've been with hospice now for quite a while. Tell us about your experience at hospice so far.
I love being with hospice. I am very grateful to be with hospice. My past experience has been doing events and community relations, and I can't think of a better fit than being with hospice, and it's a gift to me that I am able to work for such a wonderful organization.
It really is an incredible organization, and in our city, it has done some tremendous work. I know we should probably start off with Paul Sibley, who was the executive director for hospice for quite some time, has now moved forward, and so he had Jeannie Fallman, who's a long time, I think 25 years or something, she's been with hospice, is taken on the acting role of executive director once again. But it hasn't stopped the need for our community during the summertime to really continue with the fundraising pieces that we need to do for community hospice and for other organizations as well. Tell me a little bit more about Hike for Hospice and what's happened since then.
Well, we've, of course, like everybody else with COVID-19, have had to go virtual. So we had to create an idea on how to do that. I kept holding out and thinking we moved it from June to September, hoping that everything would be clear by then, but I guess I was overly optimistic. So we had to decide to do a virtual event and call it Hike for Hospice virtual event.
So the Hike for Hospice virtual event is really a different way of fundraising. How do you propose to do that? It's going to be quite interesting.
Well, I'm going to tell you, we call it Hike for Hospice as our parent name to it, our overall name, but we actually have called it, because of COVID, the virtual, hustle, we call it Hustle for Hospice. And I'm going to tell you a cute little story about Hustle for Hospice. It came up on my phone. So I was getting ready for a meeting, and all of a sudden on my homepage of my phone, it said Hustle for Hospice. And I thought, that's a cute name. Who's coming up with that? And then I looked at it again. It was Siri had suggested it because I had put notes about hospice and how we were going to do a virtual event. And it came up for Hustle for Hospice.
How cool is that?
I know. Our phones are telling us what to do now.
Is getting to be more and more alive then if she's like paying attention to the notes. That actually is kind of scary in a weird
I know. Artificial intelligence is going, like they picked out the name. So with Hustle for Hospice, we like the name because it's not just hiking. It's you can cycle, you can bike, you can swim, you can dance, you can kayak. Any activity that you can do to get out there, you can do, and you're part of our great event, Hustle for Hospice.
So I just kind of want to explore that a little bit more because I'm wondering how, when we did Hike for Hospice, and I participated in Hike for Hospice, I love it. It's way too much fun. It was at Westwood Lake, and so you would get teams together, and the teams would all meet, and there would be sponsorship that went with putting those teams together, and that's how the money was raised. How is it being raised now? Are the teams still happening, or how can people participate even if they're doing things individually? What does that look like?
So we do have the same format basically, except you're doing a different activity. So you can go online and register as an individual, which is $30, a family or team up to 6 people, which is $75, and 7 to 12 people is $150. So you can participate, and we've got some lovely registration gift bags to give folks that register. And you can also, there's a donation button. So if folks want to donate, they can do that as well to your team, individual, or you can just donate. So then once you've registered, then you get your registration package, and my contact information is on the website, so they can call me or email me. And you just get out there and simply do an activity, whatever you like. You can go out dancing if you want. You put your little hospice hat on, take a picture of yourself, and you can upload it to our Facebook page.
That sounds like so much fun. What, when you talked about the registration process, is there a deadline for registration?
We do have it officially on the 28th, but that's of August this month, which is next Friday. But that was basically to upload the pictures, because we're going to have this one virtual end event on the September 12th, our virtual finish line. But if you want to register, we will certainly allow you to on the site to register up to about September 10th and do an activity.
That's wonderful.
That's part of it.
So the 28th is really just the deadline when it comes to the photographs to come up for the virtual. So,
yes.
And how will the virtual be presented? Is that going to be on your website as well, or how is that going to be done?
Yeah, it's going to be on Facebook and on our website, Virtual Finish Line. So we have a marketing company that's putting that together. So we're looking forward. It's going to be a lot of fun, lots of different folks speaking on it, and lots of videos, and our sponsors, of course, will be recognized. We have a lot of sponsors for the virtual Hike for Hospice that have been just stepped up to the plate, and we're so grateful.
Who are some of your sponsors? Well,
Central Drugs and First Memorial are our title sponsors. And we've got VMAC, who is a platinum sponsor, and they've got teams, all got teams together to participate. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
So I really want to talk about hospice for being what hospice is. I kind of did things a little bit in reverse. I normally would ask about hospice first and kind of what you're doing afterwards, but I got so excited about the hike I couldn't help myself. I just went there. But for people that really don't know what hospice is, can you really give people an understanding of the importance of hospice, especially in our community?
Well, hospice is for folks that are near the end of life, or their families or friends that surround them. We give them opportunities for free counseling with our counselors. We have many groups, grief groups, and we have walking programs. We have Reiki. This is, of course, when more the Reiki and the self-care clinics are open, when we can actually be open. Right now, we are doing counseling through video and through phone communication, and hoping in the next little while to be doing it one-on-one with, of course, safety protocols in mind. So we are there. We have been there the whole time through COVID, and especially now, we're there for folks because they're going through a lot of grief, and it's a different scenario where you can't be with your loved ones if they've had COVID and passed from it. So we are there for you. So our phone lines are always open, and we return messages if we're not there. 250-591-8811. Please feel free to reach out and contact us anytime.
I'm actually going to come back to that phone number in a few minutes. I usually kind of midway as we go through their program remind everybody, and that's a perfect segue, to go grab a piece of paper and a pen, because you're going to want to know how to register. You're going to want to get the phone numbers. You're going to need the website and all of that stuff. So let's get people to go out and grab that piece of paper, and we can repeat that phone number as well again in a moment. I think that one of the important things about hospice for me, I've used hospice because I lost my mother and my sister both actually in 2002. So it was quite a long time ago now. And by the grace of God, did hospice show up in my life. And I can't even tell you how important it was to be able to be supported, particularly while my mother was in palliative care. But what I've really recognized is that so many people kind of assume that hospice is towards end of life because you're an older adult, right? And you're getting to the stage of life where you might have a condition like cancer or some other medical situation that has put you in a position where, and at older life, you're not going to survive it. And so people have reached out to hospice at that time. What people don't necessarily understand is that death comes at all ages. And so you are dealing, Cathy, with people that are, sometimes very, very young children, sometimes teenagers, sometimes, young adults. How does hospice in Nanaimo help support the younger generations that are passing forward in the families in that time of grief?
We've got an incredible children's program. And again, you're correct, Kath, in saying that about, death reaches all ages. It's not just, everybody thinks it's just for the elderly, the grandparents that are in palliative care and passing from cancer or something else. But we have a huge surge of young people coming through our doors. Opioid crisis, suicide, it's everywhere. It's been running rampant, as we know. We hear it on the news. So we have an incredible children's program, youth program, counselors available for that. We have a children's room, which is, you may have seen it, Cathy. It's just incredible. You can go, children speak through play. So they play with toys and do things, and that's how they get their feelings out. We have an outreach vehicle that goes to the schools and goes out throughout the community that we just launched about a year ago. And it's been very successful. So we have all sorts of ways and means to help folks of any age, and from young to old, we're there for them.
I think that, you know, the bus had just been launched when we went into COVID almost, right? And I wondered, maybe a year before, but it wasn't very long before. It's for those of you who are listening to the program or who might not be aware of what I'm talking about. Hospice recently acquired, I want to call it a bus, but it's more like a camper van.
Motorhome.
Motorhome. It's a motorhome.
Yes.
And it's been converted inside to particularly address the needs of children. And so there is a section of the bus or the motorhome at the back where kids can come and play in the sandbox and pull the toys down and, you know, really talk about their feelings and be close to home. Have you noticed that during COVID that motorhome is being utilized more? Are you seeing an uptick in young people that are needing some supports, or has that program, because of COVID, been somewhat halted?
It's been halted a bit because of COVID, because of the restrictions of being in close quarters with somebody. So we've had to halt that for now. We're working on ways in the future that we can use it, but right now we haven't been using it through COVID.
Yeah, it's a shame because and have you seen more calls coming in for people that are suffering and need supports, or has it been really pretty much streamlined the same as always? Is it?
No, you know, it's gone kind of in peaks and valleys, but right now, lately, we've had quite a few more calls. I was just talking to our business manager yesterday, and she said we're inundated with calls for counseling and for help. So that's good. That's what we're there for.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's why it's so important to raise money. Listen, if you have just tuned into this program, you are listening to Act 3 on CHLY 101.7. I'm Cathy Holmes and proud to be your host for this program. And Cathy Dyck is with us from Nanaimo Hospice. She's going to share with us right now some of the contact information on how you can get involved with hospice or get support that you need. Cathy, what are the phone numbers and contact websites and such that people can reach you at?
Okay, our hospice phone number is 250-591-8811, and our website is nanaimohospice.com.
That's easy, nanaimohospice.com. Hospice is huge. It's a provincial program, right? Or is it a Canada-wide program?
Hospice is huge. It is throughout Canada, absolutely throughout the world, actually. But we're kind of self-standing. I guess hospices are self-standing. We've got one in Nanaimo. There's one in Parksville. There's one in Courtenay. They're, you know, individual offices. So they're not all funded through Canada or through provincially. We're basically we fundraise and get grants to sustain ourselves.
So, and this is a local. So one hospice. Do the hospices all talk with each other, or are they all connected, or are they kind of like separate organizations?
They're separate organizations, but of course we contact each other through, we've got a BC Hospice Association, BC, I don't remember the correct letters, but BC and the Vancouver Island branch, that we all do communicate with each other, but we are standalone.
Okay, so it's even more important that people participate in these Hike for Hospice, or what did we call it? What was the series name for it again? Was Hustle for Hospice?
It's called Hustle for Hospice.
So we've just about I lost a little bit of your voice coming back again. Would you mind repeating that? I lost your voice for a moment.
It's called Hustle. Can you hear me now?
Sorry, ladies and gentlemen, we're having a little bit of Hustle for hospice. There we go. The internet has decided to walk in and out. And so every now and then, that's part of the Zoom kind of charm that we have, Cathy. It happens once in a while that we lose a little bit of a connection for a moment. So hustle for hospice. Hustle for hospice makes me want to do the hustle. I'm that old. Do you remember the hustle? Da, 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 da. Okay, forget it.
Oh, I do. Well,
I won't go
on
too
video
far.
doing that, Kathy. There's our Facebook page. We have fun doing that.
I actually, that might just be my activity. I'll put in the $30 and do the hustle.
That'd be awesome. We'd love it.
I think that would be very funny, actually, for sure. So, hospice we've kind of covered this a little bit, but I really want to unpack it a little bit more. Um, if somebody calls hospice and they just phone in, what can a person expect to have happen when they call?
Well, for now, if you're speaking currently, what will happen is you somebody will answer the phone, or receptionist if she's there, or else you'll leave a name and number, and somebody will call you right back within a day or so, I should say, in case it's the weekend. We're not open 7 days a week, but somebody will contact you, and then they'll arrange to have a little meeting to find out about what your needs are, and then is discussed what programs you would follow and what counselor you would see, and then go from there. So somebody will be in contact within a couple of days.
That sounds wonderful. So, Cathy, has there been, one or two impactful stories that have come across your way that have really just moved you to want to continue with the mission of hospice work? Has there?
Well, I can speak on a personal level. My dad passed away about 1.5 years ago, had a stroke, and was in palliative care for about 4 days. And we have hospice, well, when pre-COVID again, we have wonderful hospice volunteers there that are there every day of the week, and basically 12 hours a day. And they were there making me tea, doing Reiki on me and my mom. They gave us the wonderful comfort shawls that wrap you like a hug. They put a beautiful blanket over my dad. I mean, they were just there to comfort you. And I mean, if that doesn't impact somebody, nothing else will. It felt like somebody was taking care of my family while we were there in palliative care.
Yeah, I had the same experience in 2002. I found that, when you get to the palliative ward in a hospital, and it's different in Nanaimo than it was in Coquitlam. I lived in Coquitlam for years. And my mother, when she went into palliative, she was near the end. She had stayed home for as long as she possibly could. I had a very young family, was newly married, it was a really, really tough time. But because of hospice, it just felt like it was more than Kubler-Ross, right? For those who follow, the stages of dying and grief, right? It was about having somebody to hold space and just help me at that time process the breaths that were going through as my mother was, taking her last breaths. I felt that, it was more than cookies. It was more than a cup of tea. It was somebody holding your hand at a time at the edge of a bed, and just really, really engaging in the depth and the heart, the kindness of holding space for someone who is experiencing it. And I couldn't have imagined that I would have needed it twice in the same year. My sister, who is 43, passed away of cancer as well. My mother and sister had cancer at the same time. My mother had liver and bowel cancer. My sister had leukemia. And she had leukemia when my mother didn't know it. They could have even been more commiserative together had they known.
Yeah.
But Colleen had not even been diagnosed at that point. And when she was diagnosed, she was gone in 6 days. And so, yeah, it was fast. It was really fast, really, really fast. And again, in the hospital, hospice showed up, and it was tremendous. I mean, in Colleen's case, very different than my mother's. Colleen had, 17 different machines attached to her, and tubes, and all kinds of stuff. Was very incoherent. We brought the family down from from up north, which is where she was living at the time. She was in Quesnel. And I have to say, it was just extraordinary to be able to sit in that room in shock and have somebody, a volunteer, hold space for my family and for me. So I'll always be grateful to hospice for what I experienced. And I know that so many people feel the same way when they think about hospice. And I also really want to talk about the training. Can you, people that are hospice volunteers are not just ordinary volunteers. These people are dedicated. They go through so much. Can you unpack that for us?
Yes, we do have a training program that's in place, sometimes twice a year, that takes you through quite an extensive, well, there's all different aspects of what you need to know to be a volunteer for hospice. And it's a lot deeper than most people think. I actually, I'll be honest with you, started taking it last fall, and it was too soon for me. That's how much in depth it goes, because I'd lost my dad about 6 months prior, and I couldn't go through with it. And you know what? They honor you. That's the wonderful thing about hospice, is they honor your feelings, and there was no problem in me slipping out of that class. But yes, there is a program, an extensive program to teach you basically how to be a hospice volunteer. And we've got so many wonderful people that have gone through it. And there's different areas they venture out in. There's a client care program where there's home visits. There's being in palliative care. There's all, where, as we mentioned, that where you're helping folks out. And there's also, there's event volunteers. There's all sorts of, there's self-care volunteers that do Reiki and scented space for us. These volunteers are amazing. I mean,
How many
wonderful.
volunteers do you have right now? You had about 1,000 volunteers at one time. I don't know. I could be way off. I don't know.
Yeah.
Any idea?
I think there's probably about 250 to 300 volunteers right now. I could be way off too, but I think that's about, with all the different client care and I was thinking palliative care, and then our hospice shop volunteers and our event volunteers. I think there's about 250 to 300.
But those numbers are down right now because of COVID, right? So really, volunteering is still so important, hey?
It's very important, and I know there's a lot of people keen to be helping out, and I know a lot of the volunteers are doing online groups for us. We have all these not all these, but grief groups. We're trying to figure out a way to do some of the Reiki and scented space through video. I haven't been privy to those meetings, but I've heard, I thought, wow, that's amazing, because the energy that you get from, energy work from Reiki is amazing. I've taken the course, taken it myself, the first level, and I was actually practicing that on my dad when he was in the hospital, because I had just taken about 2 months before. So I think he probably couldn't say anything because he had a stroke. He probably wondered what the heck I was doing.
I hear you.
I his head and that, and my brother's looking at me like, have you gone crazy? Like, you're just not giving dad energy, positive energy. And I kept rubbing his feet and doing all that just to, comfort. And it comforted me too. So, but it's so, you learn all these things, and it's so cool because with hospice, I've expanded my knowledge on things like Reiki and scented space and how important it is. I know self-care is important, but that's one thing I've learned from hospice. Self-care, you have to have self-care, because if you don't look after yourself, then you're no good to anybody else.
That's right. You cannot fill that cup for another person. You have to fill your own cup first. And so, and hospice allows you to do that. And my favorite way of self-care is shopping. I'm sorry, but the hospice shop is a great place to not only contribute to the community, because that is really that's part of the investment that goes into the supporting the programs at hospice, right?
100%. And our hospice shop just opened about a month ago, and we've expanded our hours to Fridays. We were open Tuesdays through Thursdays, and now we're open Tuesdays through Fridays 10 to 4, and we are taking donations again, folks, the last couple of weeks. I believe it's on Thursdays. They may expand it to Fridays as well, so that anything donated has time to sit, and kind of, we're worried about the COVID germs, of course, so we can sit for 3 or 4 days and then we can work on it. So we've got all the COVID regulations in place. We've got masks. We let only so many folks into the hospice shop. We're only allowed so many volunteers, because there's, you've got a number that's the magical number you can have in the shop. We've got the plexiglass in place around the cash desk and gloves and everything else, so people feel pretty safe coming in. And we appreciate everybody coming in, because I never was, to be honest, a thrift shopper before. And I think, why wasn't I?
I love thrift shop. It's the only way to go.
Oh,
I would
course.
say 80% of the clothes that I buy, 80% of the things that I buy are thrift shop. And I get some really beautiful finds. People that have worn a garment once or twice, it was just not for them. We have all made mistakes when we bought stuff, right? I don't know about you. I've made loads.
Oh, I've got things, Kathy, that I haven't worn. I think I look dynamite in the shop. I don't know what they do in these stores to make you look good, and you get home thinking, what was I thinking?
Exactly.
And then it hangs
Exactly.
in the closet, you forget about it, and then yes, so you might as well repurpose it for somebody else that it might look great on, right?
And not only are you repurposing it for somebody else, you're helping out a very important cause. So it's twofold, right? No, you're not going to get a tax receipt when you drop off a bag of clothes, but you do have a big, big heart of knowing that you are helping someone in the community, and you're releasing that very expensive real estate of your home so you can buy other stuff that you might find at a hospice.
That's right. And there's nothing like the feeling of giving. I mean, you get so much back from helping others and giving that, unless you do it, I guess you don't know, but I've always enjoyed volunteering and giving to other people. I get so much back in return from doing that.
I'm exactly the same. Volunteering is one of the most important parts of my life. It's paying it forward, right? And when you
Correct.
pay something forward, right, it's about I always get more out of it than I could receive. It's the
For
best thing
sure.
ever. And certainly there are ways that you can volunteer for hospice. How would you like to give those numbers out again for people to contact you for the hike, for hustle, or just to be a volunteer?
Okay, so I'm going to give out the contact information with my email and the phone number. So my name is Cathy Dyck, and D-Y-C-K is the last name of my spelling. And the phone number is 250-591-8811, 250-591-8811. And my email is Cathy, C-A-T-H-Y, D as in dog, at NanaimoHospice.com. So
Perfect.
please contact me if you're interested in the hike or volunteering possibly at our hospice shop.
And so right now, that's where the volunteering is really needed, is at the hospice shop, right? Because
That's
as you said,
correct.
some of the other programs, but if you are interested in other areas of volunteering, while you may not be having the training sessions at this time because of COVID, there may still be some other opportunities where you can support hospice. And
That's
it takes a huge village of people to make these things work, right? It really does. So invest your time and invest it in a place like hospice where you know you're doing good for someone else. I kind of want to, hospice, we've kind of broken down some of the things that you do, and that it's a Canada-wide initiative and all of that, and or not just an initiative, but a Canada-wide service. Have you, when we talk about grief, could you sort of help people to understand the grieving process? I mean, people don't really necessarily understand grief as it stands as grief. Is there a way that we can unpack that together for our audience?
Well, for grief, I think people tend to isolate when you have grief, and that's what I want to emphasize, that hospice is there because you're not alone. And please reach out, because we've got counselors that are there, as I say, ready to help you through that grief and programs, so that you may join with other people that are in a similar situation. Again, emphasizing you're not alone in that grief and not feeling isolated. And that's what we're there for. Nanaimo Hospice is there for you with our programs and our counseling, so you're not feeling isolated and alone with your grief. And to know that the feelings you're feeling are not abnormal, they're normal. So please do reach out to us.
Is there a timeline for grief? Like, some people
Oh,
think that you just stand up and get over it, right? Like, I mean, the person is gone, like, move on, right? What would you say to somebody who thought that way?
there is no timeline for grief, and we all react differently to grief. For instance, kind of shut down, and I'm one of these people that does probably isolate and suppresses my feelings about it, because I feel I have to have that strong, stiff upper lip and keep going and look after everybody else. But that's not necessary. So somebody else might be breaking down and totally incoherent and unable to function. So there's all different ways we handle grief. And that's what I say again, that's what hospice is there for. to know that whatever you do is normal for you, and please don't feel isolated and alone in it.
Yeah, I think it's really important that people recognize that grief itself is a very individual walk. It's not at all in any way, shape, or form going to be the same for any two people. Some people are able to, like you, kind of get up and you move on and just stuff it and you move, you isolate and then, and it unpacks as it unpacks. Other people, as you said, they may fall apart in the moment. I found for myself, I was so busy being the person that, I was the executor of my mother's estate. She didn't have much, but I had to deal with all of the paperwork and all of the stuff that has to happen when someone is passing over. So I didn't really have time to grieve. And what happened was 3 years after, Cathy, this is so funny for me. 3 years after, I'm standing in Save on Foods with a cantaloupe in my hand, and I lost it. I
Yep.
absolutely lost it. I'm holding the cantaloupe and I'm thinking to myself, oh my goodness, why now? And what it was, I had been used to my mother years before. She would cut a cantaloupe in half. She'd ditch out the seeds and all of that stuff and, maybe put something in it and maybe not. And she loved cantaloupe. And 3 years later, that's when it hit me. So I think that from a grief perspective, hospice is there not only when initially somebody passes over or is in that process, but a few years later, for some people, they still need to reach out, right? And to give people the capacity to be able to have a safe place to fall is ever so important.
Yeah, there's no time limit for grief. Absolutely. You're correct in saying that.
Is there a set of protocols that you guys use for when someone comes into the counseling space? Could you maybe walk us through what that might look like?
After pre-COVID,
Pre-COVID, of course.
pre-COVID.
Yeah.
So what happens with folks is, of course, they have an initial meeting with an intake person, and they chat about what's going on for them, and then there's a meeting with the counselors and the person that did the intake to decide again what program is best for them, or counseling, or what procedure, what protocol they should follow. And if they do come in for counseling, they come in and they phone in, they set up appointments for them, and they come in and see the counselor, and then the counselor decides with them how many sessions they need, and then they will refer them to programs that we have in place. There's walking groups, there's grief program, there's, like say, self-care clinics, there's all sorts of things available for them, and they give them that information to proceed with.
Yes, and so when you're armed with that information, then you can kind of walk ahead more comfortably, right? What is your role actually, Cathy, at hospice?
My title is development officer. So what I do basically is a lot of different things, which I love about it. My job is a variety of different tasks. And also I'm a volunteer recruiter for the hospice shop. So I do events and fundraise and help out with as the hospice shop, as I say, managing and recruiting volunteers for the hospice shop. And that's an important part of my job as well. And I'm kept very busy, which I love. I love being busy. I love variety in my jobs, what I do, and I love raising money for such a worthwhile organization such as hospice.
So how is hospice, besides this particular fundraiser, you were saying you were raising money, is there corporate sponsorships and things that you go after as part of your job?
Yes.
How do you expand on that? What would you want the businesses to know if they wanted to contribute to hospice as well?
Well, we've had, of course, different events and sponsorships. We have Celebrate a Life at Christmas time, and we've got many third-party fundraisers like Casey's Boutique, for instance. They have Fashion for Compassion, and they usually do a fashion show for us. And this year, folks bought tickets for it, and then we had to cancel it. We're hoping not to. And most people donated the money for tickets to us, so we received $2,200 from Casey Fashion, from Connie and Karen, for that event that didn't happen. And we were so grateful for that.
Oh my goodness, thank you so much. That's incredible.
And we have also other third-party events. There's a Redliners car show. There's a pumpkin throwing. there's so many different third-party events out there that people put on for hospice. Some of the seniors homes Lakeside and Berwick put on teas for us and silent auctions. So there's all these folks out there in the community involved. For Hike, there's our corporate sponsors, as we mentioned. We've got from our title sponsors down to our friends of hospice who donate prizes for events. It's just amazing. We've got dentists, we've got doctors, we've got lawyers, we've got, whatever I'm trying to think of the right word. Pharmacies donating. We've got all sorts of folks helping us out, and we so appreciate it.
And you also do a lot of networking within community organizations as well, right? Tell us about your networking work.
I love being out there networking, actually. That's that's how I know Cathy. But I've always been involved in different, for myself personally, I'm on the board of the Nanaimo Art Gallery. I used to be on the board of foundation board of VIU. I've been involved in doing events through this community for many, many years. And I go to the chamber lunches, NSSN, Nanaimo Seniors Network, different places. And you just, I find you achieve more from out there networking and doing the casual talk as you do in the purposeful phone calls or emails that you do to reach out to people. I mean, I do both, but it's a lot easier to reach out to people when they know you. And I've been very grateful. I've been involved in the Van Isle 360. I don't know. I've been involved in everything. I've been here in Nanaimo too long, obviously. The dragon boats. I mean, they also donate every year to us. Maybe not this year, but they've been great. $10,000 a year, and it's wonderful how the community comes together and supports Nanaimo Hospice.
Yeah, I know what you mean about the networking component. It is just, it's so, so important. But there's something else about you that I don't know how many people may recall, that you were involved with the newspaper here, our local paper, for a number of years. Is that right?
I was there for a couple of years for the Nanaimo Daily News. Yes, I was. Sorry?
How that's very different than what you're doing now.
It was. They recruited me after I left Tourism Nanaimo, and it was very different for me, but I was doing more special events again. They wanted me to do features on different events, and I did that. And my Andrea Rosello Taylor was an amazing manager. She got you going. And
She
but
was
unfortunately,
absolutely wonderful woman.
she's a wonderful person, and I've networked a lot with her. There's ladies. There's the unofficial ladies network. There's so many networking opportunities out there. But it's so fun because you meet so many different people.
Absolutely. And I really encourage our community, even though we have to do things differently with COVID, if you're not networking, you need to be networking. We need to still stay very, very connected, because it's times, not just in crisis where we need the people that are, people around us, but it's when we're not in crisis, when we're not in the middle of COVID, when we can actually help elevate each other and create a better Nanaimo as a direct consequence.
I'm an extrovert, so I need people. I really need people, with this COVID, thank goodness for Zoom and our new technology, because it would be pretty lonely without it.
Well, and I'm curious about that. I've talked to a lot of people, this radio show is on every Monday at 1:00. I've talked to a lot of people about their COVID experience. What about yours, Cathy? How have you found COVID affected you and your family and the way that you do business every day?
Well, it's totally different. We've had to, like everybody else, reinvent the wheel. But I've had a lot of changes in my life, so I've kind of gone with the flow. And I talk a lot on the phone. And I've had a few FaceTime events with girlfriends and Zoom.
Yeah. I actually had an unexpected one recently that made me giggle. I was sitting in front of, the television watching something at about 8:00 or 9:00 on a Sunday evening, which for me is, pretty normal. And Sunday night, I kind of just kind of go into relax mode because I know it's going to be a crazy week. And all of a sudden my messenger started, and it was an impromptu wine party with a bunch of high school girlfriends. It was like people just kind of got together, and I thought, well, isn't that fun? Because it isn't something we would have normally done, right?
Right. People are reaching out, and what I like is people are really concerned about people, and caring more so about people and asking them how they're doing more, just being there if somebody needs you, it's so important. And I've got an elderly mom that's she's in Nanaimo Seniors Village actually, but in a kind of independent living. But that was a hard time when you weren't allowed to go in. So we would wait, my brother and I take turns, but we would wait and go outside and see her. And I phone her about 3 times a day and talk to her, you know, because you couldn't just pop in or take her out. She loves going shopping, but I couldn't take her shopping and all that. So that was really important, keeping in contact with her.
Yeah, I've really noticed that a lot of people are struggling when their families are in either independent living or in assisted living.
Yeah,
You know, it's especially in Nanaimo Senior Village. It's a large complex, very very hard to imagine how the residents are feeling when they're not able to come in and out of their property in the way that they used to, right?
yeah,
Um,
they are. And I tell you, my mom could hardly wait. As soon as they said, yes, you can go, because I say she's more in the independent, I put the mask on, I wipe down my car, and away I go pick her up, and off we go shopping, because she loves going out.
oh, I'm so glad.
Yeah.
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 And so you say that they're open now. They haven't been open for very long though, have they? Because I think some of them are still pretty tight. I know Lakeside Gardens and Origin and Berwick they may be somewhat open, but they're still very, very.
Oh, yeah. If you go in now, I was just allowed to go in the last 2 weeks. You have to wear a mask, you get a temperature check, and then you can go right to her condo. So, and which is good. I'm glad they're doing that. And so then I feel good. So I'm wearing a mask the whole time. Though my mom will say take it off, but I don't. And I even had her help us do some mail outs. Like she wants to be, you know, have a purpose. So she helped me one night for about 3 hours. We were doing mail outs for hospice. So that was kind of fun.
Oh, I'm so glad that she could participate and can continue to do that as you move forward. Is there a lot of stuff that still needs to be done as you prepare for the hustle for hospice?
Everything's pretty well set, but we're asking people still to join us and do some form of a hustle. Like we're looking forward to seeing your video, Kath, on the hustle for hospice. But we welcome everybody. We haven't set a formal time for it to be on the September 12th. We're dealing with a marketing company, and they're going to put everything together for us, and it should be fun with, you know, a few speeches from some of our delegates like Mayor Leonard Krogh and Sheila Mulkinson, and wonderful people, and maybe a few words from me, and a variety of videos from folks that have submitted them. It's going to be a lot of fun.
I think it's going to be a wonderful event, and I'm so excited about it. If you have just tuned in to Act 3 on CHLY 101.7 FM, you are listening to Cathy Dyck from Nanaimo Hospice, and we have been talking about the hustle for hospice, and the event is coming up. Let's give those dates and all that information again for people who might have just tuned in. It's registration now. You can register online.
That's correct. Register online at nanaimohospice.com. Our phone number is 250-591-8811. And you can reach out to me if you have any questions at Cathy D, CATHYD, at nanaimohospice.com.
What has been your favorite part about working with hospice so far?
It's the people I have met. The volunteers are amazing. Our staff is amazing. It's just that because you can go along and they truly care about you and how you're feeling. And a lot of the volunteers will pick up on things, especially the Reiki ones. If you're kind of a little bit off, they will come and get me in my office, insist that I get Reiki because they know that something's going on for me. And that's amazing to me.
That's so lovely that they have that insight and they can actually feel your energy to be able to support you in that way. If you haven't been to the hospice building, by the way, it is outstanding. It is a beautiful, calming, relaxing, well decorated, it's such a pretty, pretty, pretty cozy, wonderful place. It makes you feel safe when you walk into that building right away. And with COVID, obviously the office hours are not the same. I mean, are you guys open at all as an office yet, or are you still predominantly working from home?
We're predominantly working from home. We go in and out, but the hospice office isn't open to the public as of yet. And we also, when we are open, do have a beautiful garden too. We've got a children's garden, and we've got the beautiful garden outside. We've had some of our clients come in and they go sit outside and read a book, and and they're welcome to do that. We've got waterfalls and ponds. It's gorgeous back there. Like you say, it's so calming. That was my first feeling when I walked in to Nanaimo Hospice. It was just so calming. It's just a beautiful place.
You guys recently added that garden out in the back, the labyrinth, right?
That's
Can you
correct,
tell us
yes.
a little bit about the labyrinth?
Well, we just got that organized the last few months, and it's the labyrinth, as you say, so people have the opportunity to use that. We haven't used it a lot because, again, COVID struck when we just opened things up, and
COVID has
that COVID.
knocked us flat. It's just done everything to cause us grief. I mean, and the fear, of course, is the new wave that may be coming. I've been talking to a lot of people that are really very concerned that we're going to have another wave in October and November potentially. And whether we have it or not, you know, we have to find a different way of working with each other and moving forward. So, you know, still going to hospice is you know, available to a different extent, right? An online version, right?
And I want to mention too, when we do open again, we do have a wonderful library as a resource for folks too, that are welcome to, folks are welcome to check out books, and there's a lot, it's a great library.
So with that library, can people check out books by phone right now? Is that a potentiality, or have you started any of that?
We haven't started that program as of yet, but that's a great idea.
Go. It might be an idea for some people to be able to
Yeah.
reach out.
Right, for sure. For sure, that's a great idea.
We're nearing
Yeah.
we're nearing the end of the program, which is always so hard. It goes so fast. And so thank you so much for being with us today, Cathy. I so value your time and what you do for our community and what hospice does for all of us. You know, as I said to you before, to the audience already, I have a very close connection to hospice because of my personal life. And I'm so grateful. I can't even imagine, you know, this world without hospice. I just can't. But if you were to give, you know, sort of a life lesson or an imbibe of a teaching moment that we could really share with our community when it comes to hospice, what would you, and not just hospice, but your own life experience in going through grief, what might that look like?
I would just recommend to folks to reach out to hospice. We're there for you. And I didn't realize this before I started working for hospice myself. So we're there for you to help take care of you through your grief.
Yeah, and taking care of each other is so important during grief because everyone's experience is so very different. And we've kind of covered that already through the program, but I cannot express that enough, is that your normal is actually normal, right?
Correct.
Everybody's experience is actually normal. It's not, there isn't any particular way that we can grieve. And also, I really want to remind people to extend their outlook from it just being for old people.
Yes.
Hospice is not for old people. It's for people, period, regardless of age, demographic, culture, background, nationality. It's for everybody. It's an incredibly inclusive and safe space.
2 years old and up.
2 years old and up.
Yeah.
2 years old. Can you imagine having a 2-year-old going through grief, Cathy?
Yeah.
I can't even imagine.
That's been our youngest, 2 years old.
2 years. That must have been, were you part of the organization at the time?
Yes, I was. Yeah. When I first started, you know, when you go to our hospice waiting room, you'll see it's filled with families, a lot of young people.
Yeah. And as you said, the opioid crisis and suicide and all of that that's happening within our community, families more than ever need a safe place to fall. And even if it has to be done online, even if it has to be done virtually, even if it has to be done through Zoom calls, the support is there. Let's give our audience that phone number and your contact information one more time, Cathy.
Okay, our phone number is 250-591-8811, and our website is nanaimohospice.com.
And we want you to register for Hustle with Hospice up until the 28th, right?
That's correct. Please get out there and hustle for us.
Hustle, hustle, hustle. We want to do the hustle for hospice right till the 28th, and the virtual event will happen on the 12th. As soon as we know more information about what time that's going to be, by all means. And by the way, I think it's really for other people who may not be aware of this, you can go to Facebook, you know, and you can like and subscribe, and then you'll get all kinds of details about hospice, right?
For sure. That's exactly what to do. Go onto our hospice site on Facebook and like and subscribe and follow us.
Are you also on Instagram and Twitter and all that other stuff?
Yes, we are.
Okay, so Nanaimo Hospice on Twitter, on Facebook, hustle, hustle, hustle for September the 12th. Let's raise some money, Nanaimo. We know we can do this. If you are listening outside of Nanaimo, we'll take that donation as well. It's okay if you're in Vancouver driving down the highway listening to us. I have been down that highway. Hustle, hustle, hustle for hospice over there and send your money up into Nanaimo because our community needs it as well. There's a lot of people in our community that really do get great support out of Nanaimo Hospice. Thank you so much, Cathy, for being with us today. We really, really appreciate it. Look forward to hustling for hospice. And please stay tuned, ladies and gentlemen, for our next program next week. Our show is always on Act 3 at 1 o'clock every Monday. And by the middle of September, our new television program will be airing on Shaw Spotlight. We're very, very excited about our new show. So please stay tuned and watch on Shaw Spotlight for upcoming Act 3 productions. Of course, if you want to be a guest on our show, I would love to talk to you. Feel free to reach out to me at Act3mediaproductions at gmail.com. If you'd like to be a guest, I'd love to talk with you. And feel free to watch our program and listen to our show every Monday at 1 o'clock. You have been listening to CHLY 101.7 FM. Thanks so much, everybody. Have a great week. Can't wait to talk to you again next week. Enjoy. Bye-bye for now.